Thal Larsen. He is the global editor of Reuters Breaking News. And he is, of course, joined by none other than Anthony Scaramucci, founder and managing partner at Skybridge Capital. Let's give them a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. All right. Great. Nothing going on in the world, right? This mild day.
Very small crowd, not much interest.
News cycle is limited. We'll find some things to talk about.
So we're 22 hours into the second Trump administration, I think.
And the war in the Ukraine is over. Done.
Amazing.
But wait a minute, he's got 2 hours left, so I'm pretty sure he'll get it done in the next 2 hours.
Get it done.
Yeah.
What's your favorite executive order?
Well, I mean, the worst one, and the one that when I was thinking about it last night, and I was really trying not to lose sleep over it, but the worst one, is there a ping on the microphone a little bit, or is no?
A little bit of a...
Let me pull it away a little bit. But the worst one by far was the revocation of the birthright citizenship in the United States, because I don't know how to explain that to people that don't live in the United States, but that would be a wipeout of the American culture. That would literally be taking the welcome mat and pulling the welcome mat away from a country that has had the welcome mat out since the Statue of Liberty went up in New York Harbor. So, and I just want to give a fact before we move on to another question. So let's say that you are a woman that got to the United States, perhaps illegally 30 years ago, and maybe you're from Trinidad, and now you've been a baby nurse for 35 years. You've had 3 children in the United States, all of which now are in university or have graduated and are working in the country. You're a taxpayer. Your 3 children are abiding citizens, law-abiding citizens and taxpayers. You're now calling for her deportation, and you're calling for the revocation of the 3 children whose only country they have ever heard of or known is the United States. And you're going to rip them out of the country, and I guess you're going to move them to Trinidad. I think that's what he's talking about. So again, I don't know if it'll hold up in the courts, but the cruelty of what he's talking about, I think, is it's just a really bad signal. You know, we know there's a lot of business leaders in this room, and we know when leadership is signaling something like that course, it can't be good. Moreover, you know, when a leader is acting like that, the minions around the leader will act worse than that to try to impress the leader. So it's not my favorite one, but it's the one that I think is the most tragic.
Yeah, it seems to be between that one and the blanket pardon for all the January 6th protesters, including the people who were convicted of violent acts, seems to be up there as well.
I guess I expected that one, or anything, and this is the problem. Like, we normalize what he's doing now, and so there's a lot of people in this room that will use cognitive dissonance. So when we heard the first speech at the inaugural, I was sitting behind him, and I was listening to the speech. I was like, okay, this does not sound like an American president introducing himself to the world. It was like a screed, anger-based screed. And then George Bush, I don't know if everybody remembers this, George Bush was on the podium behind him. He said, man, that was some weird shit. I don't know if you guys remember that. And I was like, wow, that really was some weird shit. But we ignored it and we tried to go around it. And now it's 8 years later. Go read the speech. You didn't see it last night. Read the speech. Take a look at the transcript. It is weirder. It is meaner. And it is literally unhinged. Again, he's talking like a 19th century colonialist about places like Greenland and Panama. And so, I mean, we have 600 years of documented history of colonialism and imperialism. It turns out it didn't work out for either side. Been a miserable experience on both sides of that ledger. And so he's talking about it like that. I don't know. You know, listen, you know, and the most astonishing thing for me is the utter silence of political leadership in the United States. So the Democrats are sore. They mishandled everything. Joe Biden fumbled the generational transition of leadership in his party. And even though that happened, they only lost the race by 0.5%. And they're acting like big babies, which is feeding the Trump idea that he won this huge mandate. It's like if Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan had a baby, it's Donald J. Trump, and he has this big mandate, and the Democrats are on their back foot and they're not fighting him properly, and he's decimated the Republicans. So he now has a party that is beholden to him, a full and complete hostile takeover of him, of his values, and they won't challenge him. There was nobody that looked at that speech and said, "Hey, you may want to tone this down." Now, again, I'm sure there's some people, American citizens in this room, that voted for him. He's pro crypto. He's pro business deregulation. He wants to push a tax cut, and he wants to blend a tax cut with tariffs, which is sort of a VAT, which is an interesting concept. It may work. There's Stan Druckenmiller said yesterday that this is a anti-business administration, the Biden administration, and most business leaders are relieved that they're leaving the playing field and we're bringing in a more pro-business administration. So this is always a great oddity with Donald Trump, Peter. There's kernels of things that are going on with Trump that are good, but they're wrapped inside of this craziness and wrapped inside of this crazy nonsense.
Yeah, and a lot of the crazy nonsense is just talk, right? I mean, that's the other way people deal with this. They say, well, he says that, but nothing's really going to happen. So, I mean,
well, listen, I mean, I have buddies of mine that voted for him, and I said, well, he wants to deport 15 million people. So that's the Handmaid's Tale armored vehicle ripping people out of the country. Well, he's not going to do that. Well, he wants 100% tariff in China, 25% tariffs here in Europe, 25% tariffs in Canada. Well, he's not going to do that. And you list all the, well, he wants to take Greenland, potentially. Not going to do that. Panama Canal, not going to do that. We're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Okay. You see the laughter in the room because this is fucking crazy. Okay. I mean, so
he literally showed an oral last night saying that.
So, I mean, this is literally what it is. And we're laughing because we're like, okay, this is absolutely crazy. But we're accepting it and we've normalized him. So there's nobody in the room saying, okay, wait a minute, this is unhinged. This is not normal. There's no dissent. And so when you think about the job and you think about the Constitution, there's 3 articles in the Constitution. And when they built that Constitution, they were thinking of George Washington. And they did a couple of things. They wanted Washington so badly, they said he could farm at Mount Vernon and still be president. And so he did that, but he did it delicately. And so the president is the only job in the executive branch where you can still be doing your business. You want to fire up a meme coin for 48 hours before the inauguration? No problem. And so it's such a breakdown of norms, and great democracies and great systems of democratic rule and Western liberal, the concept of Western liberalism, not being a liberal, but the idea of the Western philosophy of liberalism is that you don't break the system, that you adhere to the norms, or you do what Cicero said, that we'll be slaves to the law in order to be free. And so he's doing things that are outside of those norms, and he's moving the playbook, and it's tremendously cynical. And by the way, and Nancy Pelosi is giving him cover. She's trading stock options yesterday, and she's firing in, hundreds of call options. We've got Hunter Biden Da Vinci. Okay, because and you guys didn't know that Biden's last name was Da Vinci because he's a painter, and he's selling paintings for millions of dollars to people, which is another form of corruption. And so it's bicameral corruption, so that Trump has taken it to an exponential level.
Let's talk about crypto. You mentioned that. I mean, I think the industry gave a couple of $100 million to the Republicans in the election cycle. Looks like it's going to pay back that donation, right? How do you read that in terms of what he's going to do?
So remember, when you vote for Donald Trump, you get everything. You don't just get the pro-crypto, you get the grift, and you get the insanity, and you get the uncertainty about taxation and tariffs. And so one of the things that he did with the meme coin, you may like the meme coin, but I'm telling you that the meme coin hurts crypto. And it's not that it hurts crypto in the sense that it's validated that Solana can handle a tremendous amount of throughput, and it's raised the profile of crypto. And we do have meme coins and they're gambling tokens. But I am walking around on this mountain, and I just did an event with Brian Armstrong inside the Congress Center. And the people that know about crypto, care about crypto, are still limited. Now, this group isn't, but most people are. I went to my 35th year Goldman Sachs reunion, and I asked the question, anybody in here own Bitcoin? Raise your hand. And nobody raised their hand. I said, okay. And these are 60-year-old people. I said, okay, anybody in here have children that own Bitcoin? Raise your hand. And very few people did. And I think we misplace in the industry because we're so focused on it and working so hard at it, what the viewpoints are of others. And so when Donald Trump puts out the meme coin, I am telling you that creates a great level of consternation and frustration for mainstream bureaucrats, mainstream policymakers, elderly. I mean, you guys know this, our Congress is like a nursing home, right? We've got people that are 500 years old walking around in the Congress. And so you're putting this meme coin out, and I just imagine a guy like David Sachs, who's a very smart guy, and I've been told that he wasn't aware of the meme coin. Let's say he's got to be going in front of the Congress to promulgate crypto policy and stablecoin legislation and all the things that this industry wants. He is going to get hit in the face with shrapnel related to the Trump meme coin. So you can say, oh, that's not that big of a deal, but trust me, it is, because the Senate is so tight and the House of Representatives is so tight. If you lose one or two of these people in the mission, then it's really bad. But you're bringing up the money, and I will say about the money, the good news about the money is that the money has provided a wake-up call on both sides of that aisle. So if you're talking to Democrats now, they're like, wow, there are no anti-crypto voters. Like Elizabeth Warren went out there with this great meme, I'm building this anti-crypto army. Well, Elizabeth, the bad news for you is there's no voters that want to support that. People like to vote for things, not against things. And it turns out there are 50 to 60 million people that own some form of cryptocurrency in the United States. And many of them are single issue voters. And I believe they lost the House, they lost the Senate, and I'm more or less confident that they lost the presidency as a result of this position. And let's just take the Sherrod Brown case as an example. Sherrod Brown was in the Congress for 18 years. And for the non-Americans in this room, these people have a 95% success rate in an incumbent election. They're usually outpacing on the fundraising side the challenger 3 to 4 to 1. Sherrod Brown was running against a car salesman that was running a car dealership. He's a very articulate guy. And he received over $40 million from the crypto industry in terms of donations. And he trounced Sherrod Brown and knocked him out of the Senate. He was the head of the Senate Banking Committee. So the good news for the crypto industry is this has woken up both sides. When you talk to people like Schumer or Gillibrand or Tom Emmer, they are working together to create some level of comprehensive stablecoin legislation and other pieces of legislation around definition and certainty of what the regulations will be in the United States. So the nonsense of we're going to regulate you by enforcement and we're going to be arbitrary and capricious with our behavior in terms of the administration of the law is over. And so now the question is, when is that going to go into place? And I believe you'll see this legislation before February of 2026. Why? Because they want to campaign on it. And that legislative cycle for the Congress starts in February, March, 7 months prior to the election year.
So just talk about markets a bit more generally. I mean, someone said at some point, someone's actually told me this week, one of Trump's main KPI is the S&P 500 index.
Yes, no question.
But there's issues with possible inflation. Tariffs could be inflationary. You may have interest rates going up. It may hit the markets. Do you think that reins him in somehow? Do you think People say this is going to make the markets go nuts. Well, you won't do it.
All right. So let's give me my honest opinion. So let's make the bull case for Donald Trump. The bull case for Donald Trump is that he is driven by the S&P 500. There is nothing else that he looks at other than stock market performance in terms of grading his success. Number one. Number two, he has had a signal, not a noise change, but a full signal change on Vladimir Putin. And some people may remember this, but the evening of the electoral success in November, Russian state television had naked pictures of Melania Trump on their state news. Do you remember seeing this? Okay. And so that was a signal to Trump from the Russian government, and that infuriated him. And you're seeing a very different Donald Trump in 2024. When he arrived in the White House in 2017, he was tentative, and he didn't understand the system, and he really didn't have a good handle on how Washington worked. And he brought a lot of Washington insiders into the job. And in some ways, in fairness to him, they were impeding the sorts of things that he wanted to do. So he's cleaned that out. Now, you could say that's bad if you don't like him, or you could say it's very good if you like his agenda. But he's changed his tune on Vladimir Putin. And it's impressive to me. And I know from insiders inside the administration, it was the campaign, but now some of these guys have moved over, that he did not like that on election night. He does not like being called Putin's lapdog in the press. It infuriates him. And he's now sitting there as the reelected 78-year-old, not 70-year-old leader. And you may see a change in him and a flex in him that could cause that war to end. And I think that would be very positive. I think the stuff that he wants to do with Iran is very positive. I think he's right about the relaxation of sanctions strengthened that regime, and in some ways it's almost like a butterfly effect. It contributed to the terrorist activity that took place in Gaza. And so there are things about him. You could build this bull case. Yeah, yes, he's a little crazy. Hopefully they'll stop and block the 14th Amendment revocation, and hopefully they'll see my point of view on the immigration, that you don't want to make it inhumane. If you're going to deport criminals that are creating active crimes in our inner cities, I don't think anybody is against that. But to go from that, which is approximately 300,000 people by our estimate, to 15 million people, that would have a tremendous effect on our economy, tremendous effect on our gap base. So the bull case is he surprises everybody, and he runs the thing up the middle. And let's face it, he has a lot of common sense. And the other side, frankly, I don't know what they were doing or what they were thinking about, but they were virtue signaling more than they were running things to produce good government outcomes.
Yeah, no, well, that's correct. We just got a little bit of time left, but I have to ask you. I mean, you're responsible for a measurement of time of 11 days, named Scaramucci. Right?
Yeah, don't say 10; it hurts my feelings. I got fired in that 11th day. It was a very bad day. It was 9.1% of my federal career. So I sort of feel like I'm owed that day. When Trump is going after me on Truth Social, and I think maybe 6-7 days after the election, he called me a total loser.
Right.
Which is, it's a sign of love, by the way. I mean, I'm still on his mind. When your ex-girlfriends are still shitting on you, it's a sign of love. You know that. So he was calling me a total loser. And he said that I was there for 11 days. So, Peter, I really would like that to be the standard.
Be on the record.
Okay, yeah. I think the president deserves to be the official scorer of this.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, I agree.
It's Truth Social. But it's been replaced now by an even shorter, in fact, a negative, time, which is Ramaswamy, right? Which is, you didn't even manage to last until the inauguration.
Okay, so I have my theories on this. Okay, so can I just share my theories? Okay, so Liz Truss, 4.1 Scaramucci's. Speaker McCarthy, 24.5 Scaramucci's. You can look it up. I'm like an official scorer. But Ramaswamy doesn't get any, and he doesn't get a time unit. Can I explain why? Because this is part of Trump's brilliance. Ramaswamy and Musk have no governmental role. Okay, they were in a Department of Governmental Efficiency that didn't exist would have to be legislated into effect by the Congress. And so Elon knocked Ramaswamy out of the box. He went to Trump and said he can't work with him, and so they pushed him out immediately. Now, Musk got a blue badge. I think they're platinum now, but what is that? It's a all access badge to the West Wing and the White House. There's that, and then there's a yellow strip on top which allows you into the president's residence. But he got the blue badge. And so the real question is Elon Musk going to be working inside the White House and running Tesla, Twitter, and SpaceX? So that would be a violation of about 600 ethical laws in the United States. And so if we're really going to bust the norms like that, I think it's going to be a long-term problem. But I am taking the position that Ramaswamy gets nothing, not even a -1.
And how many Scaramucci's do you give Elon?
Okay, so Elon's interesting. I give him approximately 40 Scaramucci's, okay, which is 440 days. It's going to be more than a year, but less than a year and a half. And he'll be blown out by Trump, but he won't be blown out by Trump with the menacing social media activity and all that stuff. He's too rich, and Trump loves rich people. The irony about Donald Trump is he's not MAGA. Okay, that's the irony of the whole thing. He loves rich people. He put the family in the first row, and he's meticulous about this. He's the one that selects those seats. He put the billionaire technocrats in the second row. He put the Republican governors on TV. They were in like a watch room. And then he had to put the cabinet in there, so he decided to do that.
They're behind the billionaires.
They were behind the billionaires.
Yeah.
So he's really not MAGA. So he respects the money that Musk has, and he knows that Musk can be helpful to him in the post-presidency. So he's not going to blow him out the way he blows out Millie or Esper or me or Kelly, but he will distance himself from Musk because he absolutely hates other people getting attention. And he sidelined Vance after he went on Joe Rogan. And, I don't know, we were looking for J.D. Vance for about 3 weeks. He showed up at the inauguration and looks like he got sworn in. But the night before the inauguration, he said, and J.D. Vance, wherever the hell he is. Did you hear that? And it was like so derogatory. And it was like, Vance is a smart kid, and he's gotten the message, hide from Donald Trump for the next 4 years. Otherwise, you're going to end up like Mike Pence. Yep.
That's what we have time for. That's
Okay,
been
Peter,
great.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Colton.